Welcome back to Busted Knuckle Performance. Today we're going to be pulling the whole front walkway off the truck here, and we're going to be removing the engine. It's just an old Chevy 350 there, Turbo 400. We're going to be removing that and putting the LS in it, so stay tuned. First thing I did was remove the hood, and then the front bumper. I'm going to climb underneath it and get the bolts for the front walkway. Now that we got the whole front walkway off, we'll be able to pull the motor out now. So there's the old engine and transmission removed from the vehicle. I slid it back in here. It's still all together. I pulled it out in one piece. That's how I'm going to install the new engine. I'm going to mount the engine and transmission together and slide it in and mock everything up for that. Alright guys, I got the engine out of the truck. Getting everything prepped and ready to put the LS in there. I'm going to end up having to get a custom-made drive shaft for the truck. The reason that is because the truck had a Turbo 400 in it, and it has a two-piece drive shaft. The two-piece drive shaft is the front piece is actually solidly mounted to the transmission and then to the carrier. And from that point on to the rear diff has like a little extension piece for when the suspension travels. It slides in and out of it. So I'm going to have to call the drive shaft shop and see if they can cut me a one piece or if they'll just have to modify the one that I have. Between the Turbo 400 and the 4L80, it's about, I measured it, it was 29 and a half inches for the Turbo 400, and I'm coming up with 33 and a half for the 4L80E. So that's roughly, 4 inches I gotta have cut off that drive shaft, and I gotta move the transmission mount then back so everything fits. I'm gonna make my own engine mounts. They're not very hard. I'll show you that. I'll include that in the video of me cutting them out and mocking them up. I'm just gonna use the factory clamshells that are in the truck. These are the factory. They call them clamshells because there's another one on the engine that goes around this and then a bolt goes through it. So it won't be too hard. Basically all it is going to be a plate with two little ears that come off, and then the factory bolt will go through it, and the LS will sit nice and level then, both sides there. So it's been a long day. I mean, working by myself, it took me quite a while just to get the engine and transmission out of the vehicle. It's a lot of up and down, up and down, up and down. Some areas are hard to get into with bolts and stuff. The time lapse, you can kind of see that. There's probably a lot of parts where I'm just kind of standing around or looking at something or shining a light, just because you got to see, like, I'm not super familiar with this engine setup that was in there. It's probably like one of the first years they went with fuel injection in these trucks, so everything's kind of crude the way that they ran it and stuff. They always like to bury the harness in behind or underneath stuff, so it was kind of a nuisance to get like the wiring harness out of the vehicle, which I'm gonna have to clean this whole mess up here, because I don't actually need all this stuff. Basically all I'm gonna need coming from that is the ignition and then some of the gauges, not much. So we'll be going through that and cutting some plugs off and modifying it, because the LS has its own harness I'm going to be using for it. So I got the engine in place. I'm just doing some measurements to build motor mounts. You can buy motor mounts for these trucks. This is a square body Chevy, and that's an LS engine, but I had some metal laying around, so I figured I'd save myself some money, just build the mounts. Although I am sacrificing some time in the process, but we'll get it all mocked up and get everything cut and fabricated, and then I'll get it all welded together and the engine can sit down in place. The next step then will be bolting the transmission to it and dropping it down in there and then building the mount for it. There's a little bit of clearance down here at the bottom, so I don't have to worry about that hitting. Fits in there pretty good. Once I get the motor mounts mocked up, I can pull the engine out and we'll attach the transmission. I'll weld up the motor mounts, and then we can put the whole thing back in there, actually bolt it into place, and get the measurements for the drive shaft then. Yep. Looking pretty good. So I got the engine mounted in place. I got the motor mounts that I fabricated on, and the engine sits down in there. It looks nice. It's nice and level. It's nice and flat. I got to climb under there and see what I got to do with the transmission mount yet. The factory one's still in there. I might just be able to slide it back because between the TH400 and the 4L80E, it's about 4-inch difference. So I don't know if I can just move the mount back or if I'm going to have to cut it out and fabricate a new one. That's to be determined. I got to climb underneath here and take a look at it. So I just wanted to show you guys that I got the engine in. My fabricated motor mounts are in. I'll show you that. So those are the motor mounts I fabricated right there. Basically all it was a 1/4-inch plate. I cut them out, and then these pieces here at the end, I just fabbed those up for the bolt to go through. It sat down in there nice. The engine's nice and level in there. I still have the chains and everything hooked up because it's going to have to come back out again. I didn't put the torque converter or anything in the transmission. Still has 2 sensors to put on the outside of it. They're speed sensors. Not a big deal. So I'm going to climb underneath here and take a look at it. So I just want to show you the progress. The engine's in place. Motor mounts are fabricated. Look pretty good. Alright guys, so here's what it looks like. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Go ahead and feel free to comment, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you like to see more videos of this. The truck, I'm trying to get it built by Ocean City. It's a slow going process, but I got a couple weekends yet before it's time for the Ocean City cruise. So we'll see if we can get it, wrapped up and accomplished in time. So thanks guys.